Blocking hints work. I mean, let's not do that here. I'll try not to give away hints, but people are asking for hints. I will give hints. That's okay. So, what is the protein called? Either that or what was it named after? So either thing works here, and it's pretty much the same. So I'll go on to question number 7 now. Almost halfway through the prelims now. Right. So this insect species, making a brief appearance to the image below, I've given an image here, is named after which iconic personality whose classic look it resembles with its characteristic markings and anterior bristles. So what I'm talking about here is that focus on the middle, like yellow part. You can see there are certain two kinds of markings, which are kind of they're kind of oval or circular in nature, like there are two of them side by side, and then below that these things which are coming out, these bristles like hair like structures which are coming out. So try and put both of those things together, and you can maybe try and visualize it in context of a person, a very famous person. I'll also give you a hint. Recently somewhat came back into, like, this person was remembered around less than a week ago, very recently. um, like, in the sense of how why are people remembered on specific days? Try and think of that. So again, look at the markings. The color also is very helpful. The color of the markings.
The markings, the darker patches you say.
The darker
Under
patches
the-
on the yellowish, yeah, on the yellowish sort
Uh-huh.
of between the eyes. So you see those two markings, those blackish, purplish, or kind of um, things you can see there. So those markings, and below that the bristles as well. So if you put those two elements together, you can sort of and put those elements together in context of a human being, right? So think of it on a human face. How would you incorporate these two things on a human face, right? And very famous
You
person.
don't. You just want the person, no? Not
I just
like
need the
an
person.
explanation. Okay.
No, I just need the person. A real person. So someone whose look that this entire thing is resembling, right? So that is question number 7. I will go on to question number 8 now. I just need the name of a person in question 7. Right. So question 8 reads, what 11-letter word connects a particularly talkative and noisy order of avians means birds, to a seminal 17th century work about a fall from grace? So if you're thinking 17th century works, this is probably one of the works which are at the top of the list. And you can also sort of, so that is one thing. And then the other thing is that this word also has a connection to a noisy order of avians. Now, if you have, so these avians or these birds are sort of notorious or kind of very well known in human spheres. They're kept as pets, and they're known for being very talkative and noisy. So so even if you don't know that connection directly, if you just think about this part, that they're very noisy, and that also this word appears in the 17th century work very famously. So you can put those two clues together. And it's 11 letters. Hopefully I counted that right back then, but yeah, I think it's 11 letters. So hint is for common name of bird or scientific. So, I mean, it's not directly the name of the bird, if that's what you're thinking of. I would urge you to think slightly more laterally, like it's not necessarily the name of the bird. Again, think about there being a lot of noise because of these birds, and think about how you can connect that to some 17th century work. And You'll get your answer. And I will move on to question number 9 now, which is another star mark question. So, question number 9, here we go. Right, bit of a long question. Stay with me here though. Contrary to popular beliefs, a recent research paper disputed the claim that a certain scale is simply a multiple of a more commonly used one. Or more people coming in. 1 second. Right. So, contrary to popular beliefs, a recent research paper disputed the claim that a certain scale is simply a multiple of a more commonly used one. So, they basically compared the presence of certain organic groups. They looked at methyl groups in DNA across the two subjects of the scales. And the conclusion was that the first unit in the scale is a much larger multiple than previously thought of. So it's not the multiple that colloquially, normally people think that it is. And the preceding units would be described by a much more complex formulae involving logarithms. So it's not that since the first unit is a multiple, all of the other units are going to be as well. It's in fact depending, like going by the genetic analysis that they did, they said that we're going to have to use logarithms and all these other more complex relations to describe this scale. The study also concedes, however, that this analysis does not account for all the hormonal, developmental, and behavioral disparities between the subjects, meaning that the relationship between the scales remains complicated. So they were not really convinced that even here that the scale is. I'm sorry, someone is not muted. Could you just mute yourself? Thank you. Right. So they basically said that even though we've gotten the mathematics down slightly more accurately, we can't say that this is an accurate, like a totally accurate scale, because there are differences in the release of hormones in the developmental stages, and also the behavior. So you can't say that this is still a legitimate scale right now. So what is being described right now, or what scale? So you can either give me what the scale is simply, or like if you know the scale, if you got to the scale, that's essentially the answer. And what I'm asking about is the like that certain scale, not the commonly used one. I want the certain scale. And yeah.
Wait, is there a proper name for this?
Not a proper name. You can just describe it. Like
you just want to know what the scale is concerning.
Yeah, what the scale is concerning. Essentially, what is it measuring? Right? Scales are used for measuring things. So tell me what the scale is measuring. No proper nouns as such needed. Just a description will do. 2-3 words. Right. So that's question number 9. Another star mark. And I will move on to question number 10 here. Right. So the Ecology Club of Delhi Technological University, or DTU, as most of us Delhi walas know it by, has a name that highlights the mutual bond between humans and the environment. Wordplay modifies the last few letters of a different branch of science to create the name of the student-led group that works towards environmental sustainability. So what is the initiative called? It has a very nice name, which I found randomly while surfing Facebook. So thank you, DTU. So essentially, try and think of a different branch of science. Branch is somewhat italicized there. So it's a different branch of science, which and the name of that branch of science, you are changing it slightly so that it also highlights the mutual bond between people and the environment. And in a sort of sense of how nowadays most environmental movements or ecological movements, they ask you to take care of certain things. So what are those things, and so on and so forth. So just put those two together, and you can sort of come up with an answer. So mind you, the last few letters only of the other branch of science. Right. So that is question number 10. Move on to question number 11. Right. So what we've got here is a very nice comic by the legendary Gary Larson. Extremely hilarious stuff. Please do check out the Far Side if you have not already added it to your life. So essentially, the question is mostly image based. So it's asking what's the deadly defendant admitting to. So here you can hopefully all of you can see the image clearly. So there's this guy here, and so the animal there is talking, and he's saying, well, of course, I dash dash dash. There are a couple of words there. He said dash dash dash. You idiot! I am a reptile. He's very sort of indignant about it. He's very, uh, you might say, outraged about something. He's saying something, right? So essentially, I need just a description, like a general kind of idea of what he's talking about. There's a few keywords. There's three in particular, three a kind of words that make up a phrase are important there. Um, and the rest of it you can mostly just piece along as you like. So think about it. So he's you can sort of see the setting that the animal is standing there in, and he is as it says in the question, he's admitting to something. So think of what he might say, um, admitting, or in a court of law confessing to something. um, and as I said, three words that make up a phrase. Three, like a three-worded phrase needs to be there in your answer to get you points. Right. So the last part of the sentence is especially important. He says, "I'm a reptile." He's very uh, kind of he's very angrily proclaiming that. This was question number 11. Hopefully you guys have taken a note of that. So we'll move on to question number 12, which is our second last star marked question of the quiz. Right. So in the study of biological molecules within living systems, components of adipose tissues such as lipids and fat cells have been historically overlooked in favor of more well understood molecules such as proteins and DNA. So coming into the 21st century, a new movement presenting a different perspective has begun to gain popularity. So this school of thought, essentially, it's talking about the idea that that these molecules, such as adipose tissue, they were sort of thought of as unappealing and insignificant, not really given much attention. Despite their importance, they were quite important and still are very important, and they deserve more attention and their share of the spotlight. So they sort of deserve to be studied more and be talked about more in scientific circles. And recent research has gone a lot into these molecules. So, which fictional character inspires this movement's name, helping these molecules rise from the ashes of of scientific obscurity? So, try and visualize. I mean, not visualize, but think about this concept. So, there are some things which are being overlooked in favor of better, or not actually better, but like more well known, like simply by virtue of being more privileged, they are being given precedence. So think about that. They're helping these molecules rise from the ashes. That is also a very lateral hint. Another lateral hint, if I were to give you, I'd say this question is placed here in this position for a specific reason, because there is a very lateral connection you can make between this character and where this question is. I mean, where it's placed in this quiz specifically. So try and maybe think of that. I mean, if I just come right out and say it, so it's on question number 12 for a reason. That's the hint. Someone is saying something. Does fat slash lipid have anything to do with the character? Not really. It's just the idea that these, in the same way that these molecules are thought of as unappealing or insignificant, even though they're not, even though they're quite important and they do a lot of important functions. They have a lot of important functions within our body. They're thought of as unappealing or insignificant. They're not actually that. So think about that.
Wait, can you repeat what you just said?
So I said that it's like the fact that they're fat molecules or whatever are not exactly directly related to the character. Just the idea or the theme that that these things are unappealing or insignificant when they're actually not, when they're actually very important, is is sort of what I'm trying to get at. Is the fictional character human? I mean, I won't answer that, but you can sort of interpret that as you might think. So um, what I will say is that this character is definitely, I mean, has been popular throughout. Like this character story, you might say, is very popular, um, has been throughout whenever it was created. Just to narrow it down, the character's name is just one word. So if that puts you on the right track, or rather, we know them by one word. Um, and again, the lateral hint that I gave was that this is question number 12 for a reason. So try and put all of that together, right? So I will now move on to question number 13. We are nearly at the end of the prelims. So look at this picture here. So this is called the Elephant Mesa exhibit. It's now called the Urban Jungle, and this is in San Diego, in America. So how did it become a pop culturally significant site in the early 21st century, following someone's odd description of the elephant's trunk? So the image that I've given here might be quite helpful. This view it might be something that you've seen somewhere, and and with someone, and in the context of someone being very excited about these elephants and talking about them, right? So what you can do here is you can give me sort of a proper noun. You can give me a proper name for where this became relevant, or you can give me a description, but that description will obviously contain a proper noun somewhere, right? So two ways you can answer this.
You don't need the exact title, right?
Yeah. I mean, whatever you're thinking of, I don't need the exact name. I need, even if you give me a description, that will do. So look at the image. I mean, so this is just one exhibit. You can, I mean, extrapolate it to sort of understand what kind of place this is. I mean, where you might see this kind of exhibit, and that will lead you to the answer, hopefully. So that is question number 13.
You just want the cultural significance of this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I want where might you have seen this?
Yeah.
Right?
Cool,
Okay.
cool.
So that's question number 13. Question number 14 coming up, penultimate question of the prelims, right? So a Guardian article from the last few years described studies done on the behavior of winged insects and how the behavior changes depending on the chemicals produced inside their bodies. So if enough nasty chemical compounds are generated, the insects begin to care less about physically avoiding predators and rely more on deterring them through their disgusting flavor. So essentially, they found out that when there's too much, gross stuff being produced inside their bodies, they'll become much more lazy, you might say, and not try to avoid predators. They'll just, try to bank on the fact that they taste very disgusting, so the predator won't try to eat them. So by omitting a single letter from a more widely used phrase, what headline did the Guardian give to this piece, referring to the lingering unpleasant sensation that these predators would be left experiencing? So, if the predators ate these nasty insects, then they might experience something And so this is the modification of a much more well-used phrase, but you're removing a single letter, and by removing that letter, you are sort of referencing the insects themselves. Note that I've not mentioned what kind of insect specifically these are. So try and piece those two things together. You will get an answer.
Will you tell us how many words the phrase is or something?
All right. So I will say it's 5. Yeah. So it's 5 words. Yes. So this is a phrase. So this is a modification of a more well-used phrase, I would say. So it's modifying it nicely to also refer to what the insects are that they're talking about. And see how they're talking about the unpleasant sensation that you're leaving the predator with. It's taste like the insects taste disgusting. So how might you describe that as? Try to think of a phrase that describes that and also modify it so it also refers to the insects. All right. So that is question number 14. It's a phrase, so I'll give you some more time to think on it before I move on to the final question. Right, so okay, someone is asking something again. The modification contains the insect's name. Yes. Okay, so that is question number 14, and then the final question and final star mark question of the quiz, question number 15. Right. So this structure, some structure we're talking about here, although first identified all the way back in the 1840s, came to be recognized for its vital function in a cyclic process about 90 years later. So it took quite a while for it to actually be recognized for what, for the important role that it plays. The development of better imaging techniques further helped to better visualize it, replacing the prevalent chemical method of using dash green. So the dash is what I'm looking for, named so for its duplicity in changing color. So you need to firstly fill in the blank here, 2-part question again. So the first blank, so the first part is the blank there, so dash green. So this dash is something which is named because of its duplicity, and duplicity, if you might know, means like refers to the quality or characteristic of being double or being, you might say, double-sided in a sense. So think of that and try and put the, I will say, name of a entity that might also have similar connotations of duplicity. So that will be the first part. The second part is Philip S. is a professor credited with having come up with a linguistic contribution in 1957, which has since made this structure in question a near ubiquitous entity. So all of us know this structure. I doubt even a single person here does not. So simply need you to tell me what this contribution was, what this linguistic contribution was which involved this structure, or how would we best know this structure? Like in common parlance, this contribution is how most of us became familiar with this structure, and even now, if you look at like online internet culture, you know this by this. Is only FITB enough? Yeah. So for the first part, FITB is enough. I said in the first part, the blank is a sort of entity which has these connotations of duplicity or of being double. So that is that. And the second one is I need a linguistic contribution. So linguistic meaning relating to language. So try and think of how one might incorporate things into language.
Adheesh, is the first blank indicative hai?
Yes, first blank is indicative. All throughout the quiz, blanks will be indicative. So keep a note of that. This is question number 15, last star mark. So after this question, I'll be rerunning the questions really fast, and after which I'll give you a bit of time to submit as well. Someone is asking, could you explain the second part? Right. So essentially, someone, so this guy Philip S. He was a professor, and he researched into this structure, and then he sort of he came up with something that has made this structure well known to all of us across the world. So, like if you think of this structure, you can only think of something, some linguistic thing that this guy came up with, right? So, right, and I think this fits very aptly in a quiz like this. So, right, so that is question number 50.
Any hints for the first part?
So first part, I would say try and think about entities that scientific things are often named after. No, let me explain.
Okay. Right.
Think of things, a broad group of things that scientists really like to name things after. And this is in all fields of science. They like to name things after a certain group of, you might say, entities or large collection of entities. And right. So hints for the second part. I think I've given enough hints for the second part, Gurkir. So think like this is I will say this one last thing. This is a biology quiz. Maybe all of you might not remember things from biology from school, but there is one thing you will always remember. Definitely. So no. So these two parts are not linked as such. Like the only thing linking them is the structure, right? Right, so that is question number 15. I am using this monkey in the corner to go back to question number 1. Hopefully that works. Okay. Right, okay. So the monkey has sent me back to question number 1 here. So looking for a word here. Yes, I'll go slow for the first few questions since I did notice people streaming in a bit late. So first question. So I need a word. So in context of COVID-19 this year, Merriam-Webster bypassed their publishing standards and they said no, these terminology accompanying COVID-19 are very important. So we're bypassing this entirely and putting them into the dictionary. So the last time that something like this happened, that a word like they bypass standards to add a word into the dictionary was back in the late 20th century, and that was because this word, when it was being used in the news as well, so they were removing periods from this word. So think about words that might have periods within them, and nowadays when you use this word, it doesn't have those periods usually, and so they adopted this word into the dictionary. So I simply need you to tell me the word. Again, look at all the context that I'm giving you here and try and figure out what the word might be.
Adheesh,
Yes.
Can you help narrow the answer? Like if I have multiple things in mind.
So I will say late 20th century, something that became popular for the very wrong reasons. Like try and think of words that kind of are synonymous with popular nowadays, and narrow it down to late 20th century. Right.
Wait. So there might be multiple words within that context.
Right. So think of the very specific context that we're talking about. That the context you're describing, let's say with a word, then put in that word. Right.
Okay. If we put
Right. So again, I'm emphasizing on the fact that this word used to have periods in it. It doesn't anymore. Extremely famous or infamous word, still used in common parlance. Take all that. I mean, yeah, I'll see if teams are getting this correct. Also, I'll give precedence to giving points to them first, and then on a case by case basis, maybe I'll see. And yeah, so just think about it, right? So word removing periods, and think of it in context of the COVID-19 outbreak. What else falls into the general same category of things? And try and think of something. I'll move on to question number 2 now. And question number 1 is star mark, mind you. Right. So the plant pictured here can be found at this botanical garden in Hawaii. It was given to the faithful benefactor of a cause. How would we better know this specimen? Through its light spreading ancestor. So there is a famous ancestor from which this plant was taken as a sapling and then planted here in Hawaii. So what is that? What is that original plant?
Adhish, so what do you mean by light spreading? Does it mean like fast or does it mean slowly or something else?
I will not elaborate on that. I mean, that's a hint you need to interpret as you like. So
Okay.
think of it. Light doesn't always literally mean light. So think about and I mean look at what this is, right? Like I also commented earlier on that this tree is quite big and there's a lot of shade under it, so that might give you an idea. Right. So that's question number 2. Question number 3. So this is another star mark. So differing only by a letter from a word that usually refers to sexual intercourse. There is a medical term which modifies that word by only a single letter. And this is and the medical term is, or the medical phenomena is, this phantom sensation of touch along the body that may possibly have plagued Sage Valmiki in his later years. So if you know Sage Valmiki and what he did, or more accurately where he did what he did, you might get an idea of the broad thing I'm talking about. The Valmiki part is for the touch thing, yeah. So the Valmiki might have, I mean, this is just my own speculation, he might have felt this kind of thing later on in life, and I will leave you with that. So think about it. And if I may, I'll give another hint. So the letter which changes, right? So the letter which changes, it is the next letter in line of the letter which is in the original word. So the word which refers to sexual intercourse, one of the letters there is changed to the next letter in the alphabet. And sorry, my bad. It's not changed to the next letter, it's changed to the previous letter. So so you have a word meaning sexual intercourse, there is a letter there. That letter is being changed to the letter before it in the English alphabet. So that is your cue, or clue rather. And this is a star mark question, so I'll leave you with that. Question number 4. What from the early 2000s and late 2010s as well, also well known as a colorful moniker, is attributed to be one of the major factors driving interest in marine biology degrees in and around Western Europe. So try and think of some things which fit into both of those things. So something which became famous is also well known as a colorful nickname or moniker for something. I'm not saying what that something is, but I think known to all of us, both the thing and the nickname. Okay, so the nickname itself is not specific to Western Europe, but like the nickname and the thing are the same thing, right? So that thing was more, I would say, influential in Western Europe. I mean, people across the world were influenced by it, but especially in Western Europe. Is it somewhat related to pop culture? You can say that it was definitely popular at the time. Right, so that is question number 4. Question number 5. So which recent release does the character pictured here feature in? So recent release, obviously you can make out it's some form of entertainment. Appropriate considering the function of the character's fur color, why this character's fur color is how it is. That functioning might lead you to who voice acted this character. So try to think very laterally. And again, to narrow it down, if you have multiple guesses, I said that this is not this person's first time doing this kind of, doing voice acting work. So that is a clue. And that's question number 5. Then we have question number 6. So you're talking about a protein here. It acts on cytoskeletal system, not that important, but it was it was discovered by work, like sort of improving on the work of these two people, Yoshio Fukui and Toshiko Kitanishi Yumura. Look at where they're from and see that the protein, what it actually does. Look at the functioning of the protein. It severs or cuts things. So try and think of what you might call the protein, which is whatever this blank and then ion at the end, or what was it named after. So what is the common noun, or what is the common thing that it's being named after? That is your clue. And question number 6, which is gamma.
Adheesh, is this a
Yes.
common cytoskeletal protein? Is this protein in question?
Like nowadays, it's pretty well known. I mean, and used in like kind of cytoskeletal studies. So in for a person who's studying microtubules, they'll very well know this. But in general, you don't need to know this to kind of get to the answer here. Again, I said focus on the people and focus on what it does. That is question number 6. Question number 7, I said look at this fly's appearance. I said specifically focus on these two markings here. In between the eyes, don't look at the eyes, look between the eyes. There are two things here, these two black things, which are sort of oval or circular in shape, you might say. And also look at these bristles which are coming out here, and try to think of them in a human context, in the context of a human face, how it might look like on a human face. I also said the person that inspired the name of this species was remembered less than a week ago. For in some context, I mean, you can probably guess why people are remembered. So that's that. Question number 7. Question number 8. So what 11-letter word? It connects a particularly talkative and noisy order of avians to a seminal 17th century work about a fall from grace. So it's talking about noise and disorder among these birds, and it's also talking about a 17th century work, right? So among 17th century works, very few are there'll be a few at the top of your list. So think of that and think how something from that can also fit in nicely with these noisy birds.
Adheesh, so the this order of avians, you want like a Latin sounding word or
No. So the word which connects them is not exactly the name of the avians as such. It is something describing something in the area, or I would say, I mean, like something more in general, right? It's nothing scientific as such. You might think of it more in terms of language, right? You might think of it more in terms of the English language rather than science. All right. So that's question number 8. Question number 9. So here we're talking about how certain molecules were overlooked in favor of others, and these particular molecules now they're being given more focus in recent times. So they were thought to be unappealing and insignificant at first, but now they're slowly coming to the center of attention. Sorry, this is the wrong question, my bad. I went to the wrong slide, I think. Right, yeah, sorry, question number 9. So we're talking about scales here, 2 different scales here. And usually we like to think of one as simply being of one scale that we're talking about here, being a multiple of the other, the more commonly used scale, but it's not actually true. These guys proved that the multiple, first of all, is very big. I mean, much bigger than we thought it previously. And it's also described using logarithms as we move down the scale. So it's not always a multiple. But it also says that this is not a perfect relationship and still requires a lot more work. So I need you to give me what scale or like what context was this study done in. Right, question number 10. So the Ecology Club of DTU has a name, very nice name that highlights the mutual bond between man and the environment. So wordplay modifies last few letters of a different branch of science to create the name of the student-led group. that works towards environmental sustainability. So what is the initiative called simply? So, or what is the club called? Um, think about mutual bonds and think about how a different branch of science, the name of a different branch of science is being changed slightly.
Any more hints on this?
Okay, I'll give you one last hint. So the branch of science is having the letters changed and modified, but phonetically it remains the same. I'll say that. So yeah, so phonetically, the branch of science is the same, but the letters are being changed. All right. So that is question number 10.
Wait, so it isn't. I mean, it's a development on the branch of science itself, right? I don't have to
Yeah,
add
on the field of science, yes. And so the last few letters are being modified in the name of that science, of that kind of science, but phonetically it's remaining the same. Which letters change? The last few letters change. Yes. So we'll move on to question number 11, right? So what is this deadly defendant admitting to? So basically you can see there's this animal on trial here, and they're very indignantly saying, well, of course I dash dash dash, you idiot, I am a reptile. And that part is particularly important, that they're a reptile. So they're confessing or admitting to something. And in your answer, I'll need like a three-worded phrase specifically, like that needs to be there in the answer to to have a complete answer. The rest of the words can more or less be here or there. So that's question number 11. Question number 12. Right. So in the study, like this is a question I started reading off much earlier. So basically talking about molecules which were earlier thought to be insignificant and unappealing. Now they're being given more attention, because even though they were thought of as useless or kind of not very pleasing to look at or something, so now they're being used. Now they're being given their share of the spotlight, and they're actually quite important. The last line is a very lateral hint. If you had the ballpark of the answer, you could confirm it with this. But yeah, so it's a fictional character. I said it's one worded name that we know this character by. This character's story is also very popular, has been throughout history. And I also gave the hint here that this question is at this position is at question number 12 for a reason. So what that reason is, you can try and piece together. How old is this story? Not saying.
The 21st century bit is just to do with the movement, no, not the character.
Yeah, only with the molecule, like not the character as such.
That's related to the these parts.
Don't go by timeline as such here. Go by what the concept is, right? So question number 13. So this is the elephant Mesa exhibit. It's now called the urban jungle, and this became very popular in the early 21st century because someone did something here. You might say, you might be familiar with this view as well of how these elephants are looking. So try and think of the broad place where you might find an exhibit like this. Think of early 21st century contexts with those things in mind. And yeah, you can either give me a proper name here, or you can describe things to me. Either of that works. There'll be a proper noun in either though, so keep that in mind. Penultimate question. So the Guardian article talking about winged insects and how as a chemical defense they sort of generate these nasty tasting kind of compounds within their body. So if the predator were to eat them, they would be left experiencing a very lingering, unpleasant sensation. So basically, to describe this sensation, they made use of a more well-known phrase, and they modified it slightly by removing a single letter from it. And by removing a letter from the phrase, they reference the winged insects also. So I just need you to give me the phrase, and I think I told you it's five words in the phrase. But like if you miss like articles or something, that's fine. I'll give it to you. That's question number 14. And question number 15, which is about this structure. So there was the traditional methods of sort of visualizing this structure was by using dash green. The dash is an entity which is named, it was the name of the chemical method, which was named after an entity, which also might remind you of the connotation of this duplicity or the nature of being double-sided or double essentially. So try and think of that. As I gave a hint, this group of entities, broader group or idea of entities is something that science borrows a lot of names from. All fields of science, you might say, not just biology. That is that. And secondly, this Professor Philip S. came up with a linguistic contribution, which made this which made the structure almost ubiquitous across the world, which means almost everyone knows about it. And as a final hint, I had said, even if you don't know much, even if you think you don't know much about biology, this is something you most definitely know. So try and think of that, right? So we've come to the end of the quiz here. So I'll be giving you guys, can you describe the contribution a bit more if possible? I think, see, it's something you definitely know. It's something very basic about biology that people seem to know everywhere. So let's think on those lines. So yeah, so I'll stop sharing here. I'll give you guys a bit of time to compile your answers and submit the forms, after which I'll be closing it very, very soon. So I'll give you guys 2 more minutes. You guys can start submitting. I'm putting a stopwatch.
So can we leave the chat, or are you going to give the answer?
I'm going to show the answers just after this. So please do stick around for that.
Yeah, can we stop sharing a video because I have to go and.
I mean, as soon as you've submitted, you can. I mean.
Yeah, I've already done that. Okay, bye.
All right, cool.
Are you showing answers, Abhi, or is there a break?
I will show the answers just after I close the form.
Cool.
So I have received 13 responses so far. I believe there are about 27 teams. So whoever has not submitted, please do. So almost 1 minute is done. I'll give you guys 1 more minute to submit it. Fun quiz, says Abbas. Thank you very much. Please do stick around for the answers right now and afterwards for the finals as well. We'll be streaming it on YouTube. Thanks to Nambi Rajan, who is here, I think. Right. I'm now a bio boy. Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Chauhan might be very proud as well. Thank you, Bertie. Thank you, Adil. 30 seconds to go, guys. Just submit as fast as you can. "25 responses, so only 2 missing. Come on now, Ayush. We've spent so much time on it. You can't just give it up like this. Right. So I am now closed the form. So if anyone has any difficulties had any difficulties in submitting, please let me know. Let me just get this. Second measure is always an option. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I have. If anybody was not able to submit, just let me know right now. Anyone in the chat? Very nice, Murkira. Thank you for the mnemonic. Right. So, okay, I see a lot of answers here. People seem to have submitted. Cool. So yes, Bertie, that was the plan. I didn't. You might see that's why there are pretty much no proper nouns throughout the quiz. Right. So I'll start screen sharing my answers now, and I won't take any responses after this. So if you weren't able to submit, should have let me know. Right.
Can we unmute ourselves? I have already.
Yes, you can unmute yourselves, and if you'd like, you can say out the answer if you think you got it. All right. So we had this. This is the monkey I was talking about who's watching you. Google if you are. So please keep
watching us
keep him in mind.
though.
Yes, but like in the broader sense, aren't we all monkeys, Rabin?
I thought this was the Hanuman from the Valmiki question, but
very nice. Okay, so we'll move on to question number 1. Yes, question number 1.
AIDS.
It is AIDS or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So AIDS was earlier separated by period between each letter. Nowadays we just spell it AIDS running. So, and they adopted it after the AIDS epidemic across America and across the world. So question number 1, AIDS gets to the points. If you've written HIV as well, I'll give you points for that, because I mean there's not much difference.
Written both, like
yeah, that's fine. Even if you've just written HIV, I'll give you that because I realize it's kind of open-ended. Right. So question number 2.
Buddha.
Bodhi tree.
This is the Bodhi tree of enlightenment that Gautama Buddha sat under and received enlightenment. So light spreading, that was the hint I wanted you to go on, and I said it's very shady under the tree, so maybe that's why Buddha took a seat there. So anything describing this particular answer, like in the ballpark, I'll give you points. Question number 3.
Formication.
Formication. So this comes from formica, which is Latin for ant, and fornication, as we might all know, refers to sex. So, and sage Valmiki, for those of you who don't know, was this great sage who was who I don't know, wrote or dictated the Ramayana, and he sat inside an ant hill, which is why later on in life he might have had this sensation over and over, because he was just sitting among ants for so long.
What a lateral thinking, Adheesh.
Great question.
Thank you. So question number 4, right?
Blue Planet.
Finding Nemo.
Blue Planet gets you the point. So this is David Attenborough's Blue Planet. So his early BBC series in the early 2000s, and then he came out with the movie documentary Blue Planet 2 in 2017. And Blue Planet is also how we refer to Earth. That's the nickname for Earth.
Can you go back to the question?
Right.
What is the Western Europe connection?
Yeah. Colorful.
So people in and around the UK, they were very sort of convinced or influenced by watching Blue Planet, and they decided to get marine biology degrees after that. After watching
basically Attenborough.
Yes, basically Attenborough. Yes, exactly. So that is Blue Planet. Question number 5.
This
is
It's
Doolittle.
John Cena.
Doolittle and John Cena, exactly. So as you might know, the polar bears are white, so as to camouflage them
you can see
in the Arctic. Yeah, you can't see it
This is
essentially.
a great question.
And John Cena, as I gave the hint, has already done voice acting work for Ferdinand a few years ago. So I was thinking some people might go for Batista because of the Drax thing, but good crack all around from a lot of people. Someone in the chat. Can't see the polar bear. All right. Question number 6.
Katana.
Katana gets you points. So this is called katana, or which comes from the Japanese word for sword, katana. So as you'll see, these are Japanese scientists who worked on microtubules extensively. and it cuts or severs. And so taking from that, they decided to name it catenin. So katana, catenin, either of those gets you full points.
Actual racism, but okay.
Thank you. All right. So this.
Is it Hulk Hogan?
Stanley.
Stanley gets you the points. So look at his glasses. Look at his mustache. That's what's supposed to be being referenced here with those markings and this. And Stanley recently had his birthday on the 28th, I think, just a few days ago, 28th of December. So there's sort of a tribute to this great man. Rest in peace, Stanley. And yes, I'll move on to the next question. Question 8. Pandemonium gets you the points. So group of parrots, a collective noun for a group of parrots is pandemonium, because they make a lot of noise, and as I said, they're very talkative, and it means a state of auditory uproar or disruption, and it comes from pandemonium with the weird A and E phonetic thing here, the capital of hell in John Milton's Paradise Lost, and the demons are making a lot of noise in pandemonium, so that's where the word came into common usage. So pandemonium gets people full points. Question 9.
Dog ears.
Dog
ears, exactly. So dog ears are not simply the multiple of 7 of human ears. In fact, these guys found out that it's actually closer to 14 or 15 years for the first year, and then after that it just keeps on getting more complicated because they were comparing DNA sequences, right? So going just by that, it was kind of complicated, but as it says here, because dogs at the age of 1 don't really act, or at the age of 2 they don't really act as 20-year-olds might in human years. So there's that relation is not exactly very definitive. So that is, so dog years or any mention of the timeline of dogs will get you points. Question number 10.
Chemistry
with a tree at the end. So this is an ecology club.
I thought it was ecology with JEE at the end.
Oh,
but he said,
again, very good answer.
He said different branch.
Any other context I would have.
You started, right?
Yeah, they have already done
I would love to, but like I
yes,
don't want
please do.
anything to
We will
with
all
it.
join it. So chemistry gets you the point. So it's talking about the mutual bond between man and environment, and different branch of science getting at the tree connect. So this is chemistry, gets you full points. Question number 11.
Cold-blooded killer.
Killing in cold blood or
Killing in
murdering
cold
in cold blood gets you points, since reptiles such as the crocodile can't really regulate their temperature. They're known to be cold-blooded. So
They've written cold-blooded killer. Is that fine?
yeah, that is fine. Completely fine. I did say I will give points for any variation as long as cold blood or cold-blooded is given. So he's admitting to his crime in open court. Not looking very good for this guy. But yeah. Question number 12.
Cinderella.
Phoenix.
Cinderella
Natural
gets you the
alien.
full points. So Cinderella, because she was always overlooked in favor of her elder stepsister, and yes, catching onto the ashes hint there. So Cinderella literally means little ash girl or child of ashes. So that's where the very sort of lateral hint was there. It was question number 12 because Cinderella, the magic gets over at midnight. So that's what I was trying to get at. So this is Cinderella. I think this is a phrase that they use in a lot of other contexts. It's not specific just to biology. They've used it in a couple of other fields as well. So, I mean, that's the answer for this. Question number 13.
First
YouTube video.
This is the first YouTube video, or me at the zoo, that the creator of YouTube himself uploaded on the website, where he's here at the Misa exhibit and he's talking about, wow, look at how long the trunks are, how cool they are, and all of that. So this is basically what kickstarted the phenomena that YouTube has become today. So any variation, so if you give me the name, perfect, full points. If you just tell me first video uploaded on YouTube, that is also good enough. So question number 13 done. Question number 14.
Bad taste in the mouth from bad taste in the mouth.
Gets you full points. Bad taste in the mouth instead of bad taste in the mouth, as we usually say. And that original phrase also applies very well because they're eating something very nasty, which in this case happens to be moths. They were specifically
He wrote
discussing
behind the bad taste. Is that a good?
Did you say moth?
No,
bats are not
you went on B for B.
Right. No. So I specifically mentioned that the winged insect is being factored into this. So bad taste in the moth or bad taste in moth or whatever. Like if you miss the.
Adheesh, check your
Sour taste is
chat.
fine, right?
My chat. Hold on. Aftertaste in the moth. I mean, so I specifically pointed out that it's a disgusting flavor that they're talking about. That it's unpleasant, right? So I wanted back. I mean, also it's a title, right? So there's only so lenient I can be. Because the original phrase is bad taste in the mouth, right? That is a, I mean, well-used, documented phrase. So leaving someone with a bad taste in the mouth, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I'll see Arun, like, I'll see on a case by case. I mean, no need to cry over this. This is just one question. Okay, question number 15. All right.
Janus green and mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Gets you full point. So these are Janus green stains. Janus being named after the Roman god of double-sidedness or doors, as he is well known.
This
and
was
the second phrase is the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, which is something the phrase which has become ubiquitous with anyone who barely knows about biology, but they know this fact. So this is this phrase, and that
The practical file में आता था ना हमारी bio की.
Yes.
States mitochondria.
I think in almost every textbook that all of us have read in high school or middle school, this came up. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So that is that for the prelims, guys. So you guys are now free to leave the meeting. I'll be putting up the result WhatsApp group itself, and I'll send another Zoom link for you guys to join, and we'll stream the finals on YouTube as well, so everyone can sort of watch.
Like estimated time for finals.
So it shouldn't take us more than half an hour or such to actually go through with the checking, but and I was planning on starting as soon as we finish checking, but if the finalists kind of want like a half an hour break to eat or something, we'll also allow that.
Can we start at like 1:30 because my partner is attending a wedding and he'll be back with me.
I mean, that's 3 minutes away, Raven. I'll have to really channel some kind of.
It was not 1:30, sorry, to like in an hour after. Not 1:30.
Yeah, I mean, if it should probably get over by 2, right? So I'm planning to start then. But if the finalists are not all like, if everyone is not comfortable with it, I won't do it.
I mean, this is in case we qualify, not like.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Rabin is pretty sure he'll qualify.
I mean, no, I got what you meant.
Unless you give me points for superior punning with ecology.
I mean, let's see. Anyway, yeah, thanks guys. You can leave the meeting now. I'll stop the recording as well. Right. Thanks.